Hey, welcome to On the Clock, a collaboration between the Pack a Day Podcast and the Draft Fellows. I'm Andrew Murtig. That is Kyle Fellows. Together, we are the Draft Fellows. Over the next few months, we'll be doing a series that covers picks 1 through 32, each team's biggest need, and who they should be considering at that pick. You can also check out all of the video versions of these episodes on the Draft Fellows channel on YouTube. You can check out all the audio versions on the Pack a Day channel, wherever you get your favorite audio podcasting platform. That wasn't right. But anyways, you can check out what we do. Where we talk about roster building and the NFL draft on the Draft Fellows. But anyways, that intro was terrible. Kyle, how are you doing? Bail me.
We're gonna start another podcast where we help people find their podcasting platforms. That's our next endeavor here. But yeah, no, we're really excited to be back on the pod, and this is a show I think that I've been looking forward to because there is so much intrigue around the team that we get to talk about today, and that is the New York Football Jets. And so they're going to be picking here. Andrew's just shaking his head at me. They're up at number 7 overall. And there's so many different directions that this team could go, right? We're talking quarterback, defensive line, cornerback, and then safety are probably the top needs for this team. Aaron Rodgers not going to be back with the Jets in 2025. Massive need at quarterback, and sitting at 7 certainly does not assure you or give you any confidence that you're going to be able to draft that quarterback. It feels like that is a tough plan to have, at least. So that's interesting. Quinnen Williams is a key cog for the defensive line for the Jets, but outside of him, they could definitely use some upgrades in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. And corner probably wouldn't really be seen here at all as a need with Sauce Gardner in the building, Isaiah Oliver, and then DJ Reed was so good. But Reed has basically said, like, I'll see you later. Like, I'm done here in New York. I'm going to find my way out of town through free agency. So maybe you talk about corner opposite Sauce Gardner kind of being maybe a consideration for the Jets. The safety room also didn't really impress last year, and they probably need an infusion of talent there. Tony Adams played the most snaps of that group of safeties, and he is a restricted free agent for the Jets. So lots of different needs here. I think quarterback gets the headline, but there are a lot of things that the Jets could do to try to make this roster a little bit better entering 2025.
Yeah, and taking a look at their options for trade, I think they could be in the market for a quarterback trade up, but I'm not sure what the offensive line needs. This is a team that is ready to bring in a rookie quarterback yet. And with Aaron Glenn, I think they start to look building through the trenches. Of course, coming from Detroit, and that was a team that really solidified their offensive line before bringing in Jared Goff. And so I think Glenn sees the template there where you don't necessarily need to have a, top 2 draft pick at quarterback to be really successful. I think ideally they'd like to trade down, but you have to have a partner to make that happen. So we'll see if that is a possibility. I think if you take a look at their needs and some matches, I think one thing is really interesting. There has been some recent smoke connecting the Jets to Penn State tight end Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
And again, if they're going to do that, I think a trade down is ideal. Taking him at 7 seems a bit rich, no matter how much you like him. Michigan defensive lineman Mason Graham is someone I've been connecting to the Jets since probably mid-fall. Him and Quinn Williams together would be absolutely devastating. Cornerback Will Johnson is another realistic possibility, another Michigan player. And I think any of the top offensive line players really make a ton of sense. Whether or not they're willing to take them at 7, different story, but certainly that is a big need. So now we're going to talk about what we predict the Jets are going to do at pick 7.
Yeah, no, I like that mention of the tight end, and it does feel like Tyler Warren. There's a little bit of buzz there. I know that there was a little bit of talk about Brock Bowers last cycle, and with how that went, you got to kind of wonder if maybe an existing need paired with the success that another team had, that maybe makes you wonder if maybe that should have been you that made a move like that, has them back in the market for another tight end of significant impact this time around. But obviously quarterback, it's going to be a spot that they covet, but at 7 it just kind of feels murky to think that the one that you want is going to be there, or that any of them that are able, that you would consider at that juncture of the draft are going to be there. I think they're going to end up going in a different direction at the beginning of this draft. Aaron Glenn is here now, the defensive mind. they've got to get things right on offense, but I think the true value might be there on defense. And I'm going to say that they're going to go Will Johnson here at 7. And I know Andrew had him going just a pick before this to the Raiders in the last show that we did. But if DJ Reed departs, it creates an opening, and having a lockdown secondary with Will Johnson paired with Sauce Gardner would just make this defense pretty tough, especially if they continue to develop in the pass rushers that they have. They've got some really young, talented pass rushers. If they take that jump paired with that secondary, I think that could be pretty dynamic. So I'm going to say that the Jets will take Will Johnson and kind of rely on this defense to be the thing that keeps them in games while they kind of work things out on the offensive side of the ball instead of trying to rush that offensive development in the direction there. So I like Will Johnson here to the Jets.
Will Johnson and Sauce Gardner would be
Insane.
ridiculous. And in a division where you have faced Josh Allen, Drake May, Tua,
Yeah.
6 times a year, that's going to be a pretty formidable duo to slow down those passing attacks. This is so lazy, Kyle, but I just can't quit the idea of Mason Graham and Quinnen Williams together.
Oh my gosh.
To me, Mason Graham, like a top 2-3 player in this draft class, I think he would be awesome. And we see interior defensive linemen slide like this sometimes. And I think that interior pressure is something Aaron Glenn would be really, really excited to build his new defense around. So I'm going to go with the Michigan man, Mason Graham.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I think that it feels like this is kind of the low end of where we expect Mason Graham to go.
Yeah.
But those interior defenders, things can get a little bit weird, and we do see them slide sometimes a little bit more than they should. I think Mason Graham is that talented player, maybe not as exciting as an Abdul Carter or, one of these guys that's a little bit more flashy, but the player that you can plug in and is going to be, to pair him with Quinnen Williams for, the foreseeable future, like you mentioned, would be definitely a dynamic pairing, and one that you could definitely see someone like a new coach, Aaron Glenn, getting pretty excited about that being the direction in his first year and in his first draft. So I like that selection a lot. But at 7, a lot of questions for the Jets, a lot of different ways they could go with it. We're going to have to wait to April to see what they actually do. But thanks for joining us on the show today. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show and stick with us as we preview all 32 teams in this series leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellas have got you covered. Until next time, stay tuned and stay in the game. Whoa.